Hey everybody, welcome to Pencil for Life. I am the one and the only Brad. I hope you are doing well today. I got with me a couple of good people. I'm excited because we're going to be talking with George Alexopoulos today. And we're also going to be talking with Pixel Trader about Insider. How you doing, George?
Very good. I
Good
hope you
man.
guys are having a good night too.
I hope they are too, man. I hope they are too. And how are you doing, Pixel?
Man, I'm doing good. It's Friday, I've been waiting for this weekend all week, so definitely excited to take some downtime.
Yeah, man. That's good. So yeah, my normal co-hosts aren't here at the moment, so they may pop in a little bit later. We also extended the invitation to Edwin, so we'll see what happens during the stream today. But I hope everything goes well. So we'll find out here in a minute. But let's start with Insider. Let's start talking about that real quick because I'm actually excited for it because you're doing a printed magazine now for kind of like a wizard, type thing with IndieCron, but it's called Insider. Why don't you give us a quick rundown about it real quick?
Yeah, sure. So Insider actually it started as Insider,
Mm-hmm.
Insider, and that was an idea that Dr. Wright and I had way back towards around November of last year, October, November.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we were trying to think of ways that we could promote books and be able to kind of get that nostalgic feel back from like what Wizard had. It seems like the community at large, everybody's been talking about, oh, I really miss Wizard. I really miss Wizard. And I'm like, you know what? Me too.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided I wanted to try to pull together some kind of magazine or something similar to it. And from talking to various creators over time, we decided that we finally wanted to go ahead and really push hard to make this a reality. But knowing the way that the internet is now and the ubiquity of information, we needed to do something a little bit different. So what we've decided to do first was launch the website. And so that's insider.net or insidermag.com. Um, we got the domain picked up. We've got the logo all pulled together, and we've started pushing a lot of different content to the site.
Mm-hmm.
And similar to the way that Wizard functions, we're hitting a lot of different stuff. We're hitting comics, we're hitting tech, gaming, collectibles, TV and film, all that kind of stuff. And we're really trying to expand the reach to pull in more readers and get eyes on things. And so, where we really want to go with this is to take a lot of this information, pull together some stuff, and start making connections outside to build up that print edition I talked about. And the print edition is going to be really cool because we're going to be talking to, well, actually, we already have quite a few submissions, but uh, it's going to be a place where you can see preview art for upcoming books. You're going to be able to see advertisements for things that people really want to show off. We're going to have interviews with a lot of creators that have like photos of their workspaces and the types of tools they use, things like that. So we really wanted to capture that old nostalgic feel, but bring it into a newer design. So we're switching up the format instead of being like a standard magazine size. We're going 8 by 8, and we're just having a really good time with this. It's all fallen together really quickly. Once we said, hey, let's make this happen, we pulled together a team of about 15 to 20 people. More
Mm-hmm.
people are coming on all the time, and it's all volunteer work right now. We're all just really excited to promote stuff and get our voices heard here.
That's
So we
cool.
think it's going to be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, the reason why I'm excited about it is, we talked about this the other day, but, back in the day, Brutes and Babes, in Wizard, things like that. So I'm looking forward to seeing people put together a how to draw section from talented artists in the community and stuff, maybe how George here does his backgrounds or whatever on his artwork. Like he's painting right now, which I'll show,
Yeah.
because the clouds are so vibrant and everything like that, to maybe, like I suggested having Sashi draw, hot chicks, and seeing how that happens,
Right.
the piece together or whatever. To get, because that's what I liked when I was learning how to draw in high school and stuff like that. So also seeing who the hot artists are we think in the community or the industry, not just indie but also pro. Maybe we can do a couple lists or something like that. I think that'd be dope.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of room for that, and
Mhm.
that's something I'm just finally starting to get into because I've been looking through the different magazines. I've got a wizard sitting here on my desk. I've had one here forever because actually it's an issue that I'm in. So
Oh,
I,
really? All right.
yeah, I'm a little egotistical, I guess. But I found this. I found it online. I'm like, I had to have a copy of it. I've got one stored somewhere, but I wanted to have a copy I could just flip open and read through. But it's nothing major. I had an envelope art or something in there, so
Oh,
it's
that's cool.
kind of silly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I never
But
made the envelope art. I always tried, but I never did it. I never did it.
I tried the actual like full on like real good stuff, and I never made that. But I managed to get an envelope in, and I won. And I've got a piece of art from an old version, or sorry, an old issue of X Factor
Okay.
that I got from that. And I also got a wizard hat and stuff too, which is really cool.
Oh,
But
nice.
I keep thumbing through that and looking at the articles and the vibe, and really trying to make sure that we don't lose that kind of feel. And so the
Hmm.
quirkiness of some of the articles, and like you said, the top artists, movie castings, right? Uh,
Movie castings, I would say, top-notch statues,
yeah,
collectibles, things like that. Sideshow hot toys, the sculpts and stuff. I mean, uh, as an artist, artist table here. I want to talk about all types of art, from paintings to comics to sculpture and things like that, because
right.
man, some of those guys are so talented, and when you see, honestly, I was watching an unboxing of a custom one-off Spawn figure, and oh my god, it was dope as hell. And it came in a huge box. It was 5 pieces. They put it all together. He stands on
Wow,
the cross on a cross with a skull and crossbone pile below. And the sculptor who made that, dude, was insane. Absolutely insane to do that. It was pretty
that's
cool.
cool.
Yeah, dude.
I'll have to look that up. That sounds amazing.
I'll send you the link later. It's pretty cool. So,
Okay.
maybe I'll put it in the chat here in a minute. If I can
Yeah.
find it while we're talking. But yeah, I
Yeah, and
mean,
that's definitely the kind of thing I want to
mhm,
hit. Toys and stuff. I don't have quite a good background for collectibles. I collected a few cards here. I've got a few figures, but I'm by no means an authority on that. So, if you know somebody that is really into collectible stuff like that, send them our way. We're always looking for contributors.
yeah,
So if there's somebody that like really wants to write an article about some of the toys they just recently got, we'd love to have them.
cool, cool. Yeah, I'm down for that. And I know you asked me to contribute stuff, and I'm kind of thinking it over, but I'm not 100% sure yet. So we'll see, though.
Sure.
But if the audience wants me to, maybe I'll do something. So, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be cool. I mean, it doesn't have to be much. It can be an article. It can be a piece of art. Whatever you really want to do. Now, we are going to try to run a contest pretty soon. I'm still trying to figure out the details because I want this to be like Wizard, where
Yeah.
maybe you don't have to mail me an envelope necessarily, but uh, I still want that kind of excitement, right? You don't know if your art actually made it into the issue until it goes to print, right, or something like that. There's little things that can happen
Mm-hmm.
there. Um, so we're going to see what happens. I've been looking through a lot of this. We've talked to a bunch of different printers. Originally, we were going to go through Amazon, but we're
Okay.
actually looking at somebody else right now, so we can up the print quality a little bit. But we're still
Gotcha.
going to do it print on demand. That's the big thing. We're not going to crowdfund this. We're not going to force people to shell out a ton of money just for us to have a chance at actually printing this. We're going to go straight into print on demand. So as soon as it's ready to go, you'll be able to buy it.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm down for that. I miss having, like, that book on the desk that you can just pull open and
yeah,
take a look at, flip through. So,
yeah.
yeah, we'll
There's
see how it
something about
goes.
having, yeah, something about having tangible pages. Just
Yeah.
being able to pull open that book, like you said, and just crack it open, put a bookmark in there, and that's the page you want to check out
Yeah.
regularly. Absolutely.
Chicken, is my volume still pretty low? I have boosted it up quite a bit, so um, I don't know what it's like when it's coming through OBS. So
Seems clear to me.
yeah, because we're on Hangouts, but it may be dividing
Oh, okay.
the signal strength, or the boost. So I did boost it up through OBS, so it should be a little bit louder. So I did a couple decibels. So hopefully I'm not blasting anybody to bits right now. But we'll see. Anyways, so let's go over a couple things real quick before we get to Mary Sue. I just thought this was funny. Okay, he says it's good. Awesome. I don't know if you guys saw this today, but Tommy Lee on Twitter decided to go off, and I want to share this because I just thought it was funny, and I think the climate, in not just comic books, but also the political spectrum is kind of way out of control right now. And so let me pull this open real quick, and I'll share this with everybody. So, and I want George's, take on it, and I kind of want everybody else's take on it, but yours too, Pixel. But yeah, so you Trumpsters better pray that liberals never gain control of the White House again, because we're going to pay you back so fucking hard for all this shit. By the way, adult language here for a minute. This is not my language. Planned Parenthood on every damn corner. Oh my gosh, I don't know what to think about that. We're going to repaint Air Force One pussy hat pink, fly it all over your beloved Bible Belt 6 days a week, tossing birth control pills, condoms, and atheist literature from the cockpit, which seems kind of not very good to me, because out of the cockpit it's just a small little window. You can't get much of that out there.
Yeah, you're also depressurizing the cabin.
I know, right? You're going to kill yourself. We're going to tax your mega churches so bad, Joel Olstein. We'll need to get so bad. Joel Olstein will need to get a job at Chick-fil-A to pay his light bill. Speaking of Chick-fil-A, we're buying all those and giving them to any LGBTQ person your sick cult leader tortured with conversion therapy. Oh my gosh. Have fun with the new menu, you bigoted fucks. Sorry about the language again. Try a McPence, which is McDonald's. I don't know what it has to do with Chick-fil-A. It's a boiled, unseasoned chicken breast that you have to eat in the closet with your mother. You're going to gather up all your guns, melt them down, turn them into a gargantuan metal mountain emblazoned with the face of Hillary Clinton. All parks will be renamed Rosa Parks ASAP. I guess we're going to Rosa Parks, guys. So nobody's going to get confused there. We're replacing Confederate statues with BLM leaders and Mexican immigrants. Are you just going to take a Mexican immigrant and stand him up on the thing so he can't move? It seems a little out of place there. Every single public school will be renamed after a child that was kidnapped by this regime. I don't know any child that was kidnapped by the government, but yeah. Anyways, and after we fumigate the White House, we're repainting the whole thing rainbow. Fox News will be taken over and turned into a family refugee center. We're turning Hannity's office into a giant unisex bathroom with changing tables and free tampons. Oh my God. And with every single time a Trumpster complains about any of the changes, we're adding an openly gay character to a Disney movie.
So nothing is changing.
Nothing's changing, yeah. George, you've been awfully quiet. What do you think about that?
I'm sorry. I'm not being quiet on purpose. I'm just listening.
Yeah.
That kind of talk just tells me, like, he's not interested, or he knows nothing about what actual politics are.
Oh, no. Yeah.
The idea of politics, I've written about this before, like the whole point of the word is that you can negotiate and discuss and give and take, and maybe you have something that you want and I have something that I want, and we talk about it, and maybe we come to some middle ground, and everybody can, if they're not happy with the deal, at least we can be satisfied that we found some middle ground.
Oh, totally.
And people like this are just like, no, I'm just going to take the wheel from you and slam it in whatever direction I can. And like, you're not allowed to, how do I put this? It's just pure divisiveness. Like,
oh, totally.
there's no future for these people. Like, I am taking over everything from you, just like they perceive that we've taken over. I don't even mean we, like, I don't, we as in like everyone except them. I just can't stand this. Like, well, my first response to seeing an image like this is cocaine's a hell of a drug, basically.
Oh, dude, yeah. I was saying cocaine, and Pixel said, no, it's meth. You know,
or heroin,
he needs to eat something, you know, get off the drugs, get your mind back to normal.
Right. And also, like, we call this classic virtuous signaling, like, in the sense that, like, if anyone's like been in church or anything, like, you hear about stories of people getting caught up in the spirit, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, like, it could just be someone that just wants attention. And he's writing this like in the way of like, everyone look at me, I've got the Holy Ghost. I got the holy leftist ghost. Like,
he's definitely had his speaking in tongues moment. Yeah.
Right, exactly. He this is his version of speaking in tongues, and this is what it looks like when the spirit of the left has taken someone's mind over.
Oh my gosh, dude. That's just bonkers. And dude.
Chicken Sith is saying that it's a copy pasta, so he wasn't even able to be original. He had to go borrow this from somebody.
Oh my gosh, dude. You know what's funny though is I remember back in the 80s when Motley Crue was getting really big, really famous. They had all the women throwing themselves at him. You know, they had their Trump moments, you know, grabbing up by the pussy type moments. And, you know, and he loved it. You know, I don't see him complaining about it. You know, but now he's complaining about Trump. Yeah, it's stupid.
He wants to be relevant again.
I know. Yeah, it's dumb.
I'm sure their combined lyrics completely destroy anything that Trump has ever said.
That's what we should, as responses, we should just post lyrics from their songs about like the nastiest stuff.
Oh,
dude, I'm down.
But you know, that's anytime I argue with these people, all you have to do is show them a mirror, and they will immediately like attack you for like, how dare you show me things that I've said. Their response is usually no, you. Like, they don't have arguments. They just say like, oh, look what happens when God, Trump's not doing any of the things that they're saying that he's doing. It's like, oh, you just wait until we get back into power. We're gonna put you into concentration camps. We're gonna do all the things that we think that you're doing to us. It's like trying to, how do I put this? It's like seeing the boogeyman around every corner. So then you become the boogeyman to fight this non-existent bad guy. And now it's like the Antifa thing. They have been fighting non-existent fascists, and in the process, they have become fascist.
Yep.
I see this kind of hysteria happening all the time. It's like this silly Yoda line from Star Wars. It's like anger leads to hate, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, all that stuff.
Yep, hate leads to suffering.
Right, and it's a silly movie, but if that line actually makes sense. If you're afraid all the time, the one thing you want is to not be afraid anymore, and in order to not be afraid, you'll get pumped up and say stupid things like this. Just wait until I get into power. I'm going to mess all you up. Oh, you're definitely someone I want to be in power then.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So let's jump off Tommy Lee, because I think we've given him enough time for a while. Yeah. But let's talk about you, George. What I want to talk about mechs and stuff and everything and robot suits here in a second, but let's give a quick rundown of what your book is about. Mary Sue, by the way, if you haven't seen it, it's in the link below in the description. Yeah. So give everybody a quick rundown who hasn't seen it yet.
I still struggle with this, which is terrible because I presume to be a storyteller.
You're supposed to be, yes.
Well, I'm not good at introductions. I've always joked about this, like when I was dating my wife. It's like I was not good at the first few conversations, but once I get going. All right, so what Mary Sue is about. It's about a derpy exosuit pilot in space, but it's not our space. It's like, if you see the screen here, it's like this weird, it's not outer space. It's very colorful. There's air. There's different galaxies that you can go to. It's only a few days away. to go to a different galaxy. And she's in so many words, she's a contractor. She goes from place to place, taking on jobs, and she helps people. She meddles. She's got an incredibly powerful exosuit with lots of different options depending on the job that she perceives that she needs to do. And there's a lot of action, let's say, and a lot of the action is going to be very tactical. It's not so much like she's really strong, and that's why half the joke is she's called Mary Sue in the title. Her suits are super powerful, but they're often too powerful, and there will be a lot of collateral damage. So her choices going into a fight, like she can't change a suit once she's chosen one. So a lot of it is
cool,
like.
By the way,
I'm sorry.
Cool. I thought that was really cool. By the way.
Thanks. Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems and one of the biggest criticisms for comics these days is that there's superheroes who could just do anything. Like, I'll just solve any problem by punching it. And I think that's just not dramatic. It's not interesting. So in the case of Mary here, she'll have a suit that's really good at long range fighting, for example, really good. But then she'll fight someone who's all about getting in real close and not letting her get away. So how does she fight that person? How does she create distance so she can land the finishing blow? Can she even do it? And then there's all kinds of questions like are there citizens around? Where are they fighting? Every fight's going to be different. It's going to be this long series, hopefully, depending on how long I can keep this going. She'll go all over the galaxy, fighting all kinds of cool people, visiting all kinds of different worlds. Every story arc is at a different location. And her story just escalates and escalates until it reaches a really fun climax, interesting climax. Mm-hmm. And man, I hope I can make it to the end. It's going to take a while, but as long as people are interested, I want to, floor it, see how far I can go with this.
I think you can do it, man.
Yeah. I'm not a great businessman. That's always been one of my weaknesses, actually, Brad. I want to ask you about that because, you have a lot of experience with stores and stuff. And like one of the things I wanted to ask you about, we don't have to talk about it now, but I was curious about
you can ask. Yeah, go ahead.
The state of the industry and what we can do. Like one of the things I want to do is go to all my local shops and ask them like, A, do you want my book? And B, what can us creators do to create a better symbiotic relationship with you guys? How can we both work to bringing life back to this industry?
That's a really good question. And I don't know if I have the exact answer for that, to be honest. But the problem is getting the books cheap enough for stores to make a profit, right? Mm-hmm. Some stores will buy like 1 or 2 copies, maybe 3 from you, to give it a chance on the shelf and see what it's like. But if they can't buy them in bulk enough to make a profit on there, they're going to have a real tough time. Now, what you can do, though, and what we did around here when I was running a store and stuff like that, when local artists and stuff like that have books to sell, we let them come in and set up. Mm-hmm. And then, we post on our social media that they're coming in, to sell books and stuff like that, because they'll usually bring people in. They'll also check out comics on the shelf and stuff like that. So it works that way symbiotically. And you can do that all year long, and you don't have to worry about just free comic book day or mm-hmm. Comic Fest in October.
Okay.
So I think that's a good way to reach out to stores that way,
signings and such.
Yeah, well, it's not just signings. Yeah, I mean, like, hey, look, and then when you sell a book, maybe you give them like 20% of the cover price, or something like that. But you're there selling. It brings people in who are your fans in the local area. You can make new fans, and mm-hmm. I think that's a good symbiotic exchange for the industry. But with the news that's happening lately with AT&T and DC and them maybe cutting off DC Comics altogether out of the Warner Brothers lineup, I don't know how much longer the industry has, to be honest, in a normal format. I think physical stores, except for the really big ones, are going to be dwindling more and more. I don't see the industry changing fast enough. I don't see Diamond Comics changing fast enough. The stores aren't demanding that, or even stop ordering all the variant covers, because customers want the variant artwork, the good artwork, and they have to order like 10 issues to get it, and so stores have to order a lot to demand or get those covers to satisfy the needs of their clients. So with all the changes that have to be made between the customer, educating the customer on what's happening, to having the stores all act together in a unified manner and changing the distribution model, I think unfortunately it's going to have to fail before it gets better.
I see.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of the profits for these stores was like back issues. Is that
back issues? Yeah. If you're going straight comics only, it's got to be back issues, or variant cover prices.
Jeez.
Yeah. Our store, when I worked there, we did also what do you call it? Board games, card games, stuff like that. That was like 50-60% of our intake. Comics was maybe 25%.
So comics is like, I'm thinking in terms of fast food joints. Like the burgers are actually low profit for them. It's the fries and drinks that gets them the most money.
Correct. Yeah.
So comics are the burgers, but games are the fries.
I would say the games are more the burgers now than anything else.
Okay.
Comics are becoming the condiment. On the side.
You just kind of give them away.
Man, I don't know, because I always talk about how the Japanese industry is kicking our butts.
Oh, dude, they're totally kicking our ass. Manga is doing awesome.
Yeah,
they're getting it right. So
I don't know. I mean, part of it is also their country is so small, and we're so spread out. It's harder to get.
Well, they're still selling more here than U.S. books are selling here. My Hero Academia is definitely the best book to look at right now for that. By far, it's $10 a book. Comes out once a month maybe, or once every 6 weeks, something like that. I don't know what the exact release schedule is, but you're getting a bunch of chapters. You're getting way more than 22 pages, right?
Yeah.
You're getting a lot more content, a lot more action. You're not being schooled in the ways of Western politics. You're being schooled in what is right, what is wrong. How someone should act and how someone should, be in that situation. And you're living that hero life. It's mainly for guys. There's girl heroes too, and some girls may read the product, but we all know mostly men read comics in the United States. Tim Seeley, is correct. They're not marketing towards boys. 10 to 17 right now. They're an ignored demographic completely. Because they're being engaged with storytelling format of video games. I think Yellow Flash talked about this morning, and he's 100% correct because but he was reading it from an article on Bleeding Fool, but they are correct. They're being ignored. With 95% guy readership in comics, you need to cater to the guys if you want to sell books. I mean, talk about Brian from Coffin Comics, right? Lady Death, 20 minutes in, $100,000 the other day in 20 minutes for Lady Death because he's selling what the guys want. Action and hot chicks, and I'm sad to say, there's a large portion of the population that will sell that. Mount Olympus Comics sells hot chick comics. They get funded every dang time on Indiegogo. Or not Indiegogo, but on Kickstarter with no problem. They sell all the little perks and whistles and everything you could want on there. Lots of titillation. But They're catering to what their customers are demanding. And mainstream comics, most of them aren't. You know, manga is. Manga is catering to what they want, and they know what they're going to get. You know, My Hero Academia is a great superhero storyline. How to Pick Up a Girl in a Dungeon, great storyline. You know, and it's guy-oriented, hero-oriented, you know, where you feel like you're the hero, the character, you know. You can live that role through their eyes, you know. And
one of the big challenges I've wondered about is manga is obviously black and white a lot of the time, but that doesn't seem to bother anybody.
No.
And for so long, I thought one of the reasons, because I've been working in black and white almost my whole career until these past few years. And I was like, oh, my career never took off because all my work was in black and white. Manga never got that popular, but I still see manga blowing up. I'm like, it must be something else.
It is something else, yeah. Western comics, you know, in my opinion, Western comics they had the advantage in the 90s, early 2000s, and they blew it over manga. I think they had a great thing. They had flashy colors, great artists working on it, dynamic action and layouts and story time, and they blew it. You know, they blew it by catering to politics. You know,
where do you think the turning point was? Because I know Image was crushing it for a while. And everyone thought that they were the big shining hope for a while, and then they had their own infighting and such. For a while, it was looking optimistic.
Yeah. I think... I don't know, to be honest. I think when people... I don't know. Because I definitely dipped out for a while. I did dip out for a while for comics, and then I got back into it. So I don't know where the change happened. It was somewhere in the 2000s, because I didn't come back into comics until 2015, you know, 2014, you know, somewhere around there. And by then it was already in decline. It was way declining.
I was with the industry in and out for several years, but I was watching it on life support for decades, I feel like. In the late 90s, mid to late 90s, I noticed a lot of superhero stuff. You know, it was all very generic, but I was into video games, and a lot of my friends were into video games and anime and manga and stuff. But then I noticed that manga was really starting to inflate by 2000, early 2000s. And it peaked when I had just been going to, I would say mid 2000s. So like by 2005, for me, it peaked.
Okay.
And that's when they were looking for original English manga and stuff like that. But even before that, I remember there was publication arms of Viz called Pulp Comics.
Yeah.
That did kind of grungy, like mature series like Strain. There was Blade of the Immortal through Dark Horse.
Yep.
You know, it was super violent, lots of, you know, blood and gore and sex and all that stuff. And to my teenage mind, I was like, holy crap, I can't believe that these comics exist. And I guess America was still shadowed by the Comics Code or something like that. But
they
manga was
were
off
in the
chain.
90s, weren't they, Pixel? I think they were.
Yeah, well, part of the whole Image attitude was to go away from the Comics Code. They shunned it and then went full carnage, basically.
Yeah. I mean,
I remember Spawn.
I was saying Dark Horse did, you know, they were doing manga. They were like pushing things like Ghost in the Shell and stuff like that, which I bought. I loved it, you know. That's when I started noticing manga and Japanese animation, you know. That's when I
there was a weird time where, I guess for me, comics had always been stale. What do they call it? They call it cape shit. Like superhero stuff. I've always never really been into it. I like different kinds of stories, but manga really scratched that itch for me. And I guess a lot of people in America were feeling the same way. I didn't mind that they were in black and white. I never did. But then there were a couple of times when, like Image Comics, I would go out of my way to buy Hellspawn, for example. because I loved the digital art. There were these weird collages, and it didn't look like Spawn with the pencil ink style. And
Yeah.
how Spawn was like paintings, and I was like, wow, this art's so different. And I realized I was just tired of the same old, same old. I just wanted something different. I loved comics. I wanted to read comics. And then I noticed the industry had always been suffering. A lot of my local shops had been closing. And I noticed that manga, like at Barnes & Noble, that's where I consumed most of my stuff. And the shelves, even recently, I was at Barnes & Noble, the shelves for the American comics section are maybe a quarter of what manga is in terms of shelf space.
Totally.
And part of that is the enormous volumes of manga, but that's just so much more of a value to the customer than, Watchmen is a good book, but it's just one book.
One book, yep.
And it's very dense. And that's actually one of the criticisms that Japan throws at American comics, is that American comics don't breathe. They're so condensed. But I guess because of the high printing costs, that's a necessary exchange.
Yeah, I would say so. That would be one of the reasons why. But also, was it trying to think of the right word here. When you talk about artists, where it feels different. You notice the big artists who sell a lot of books because their artwork feels different than the normal crap that's put out for the big companies. That's why Sean Gordon Murphy sells so much. That's why Frank Cho stuff sells so much. Finch, Capullo. It's not just their fan base that they have for years, but it's their style, what they put into it, their creativity on it. That's why Jim Lee sells so much. And that's exactly why they sell a lot more. I mean, instead of getting that crap that's put up by a lot of Marvel books and stuff.
Right, like they hire a lot of artists who are kind of generic looking.
Yeah.
Where I want to see daring artwork. Like,
correct, yeah.
I never liked the Sandman artwork, for example, but at least it looked different. A lot of Vertigo's books look different.
Yeah, it looked like art. It looked like art, and that's what people want. There's something something different. Something that speaks to them. That has an expression that tells that story.
Well, even as a consumer, one of the things that I want more than anything is to collect books that have interesting art styles so that I can study them.
Yeah.
I don't see the point of buying a book if I'm not going to, periodically go back and just study the artwork. Or I collect, I have tons of art books that sometimes I just sit in my couch or sit next to the window or something like that with a nice cup of coffee, and I just drool over the different art.
I do too. Yeah, I bought. I love Blizzard games, and they have those collector's editions with all the books, the art books and stuff. And I get those because I love the art books. And I'll just pull those out and look at them sometimes. I'll pull out and look at books. Old comic books that I love. The Marvel Presents with Sam Keith. I'll pull out Mark Texiera's stuff. I will go find books that art interests me. That I can learn from. And that's a visual feast you can't get. And in some of the modern day comic books, and I think that's been lost on these big companies just looking for dollars,
Well, they're trying to save money.
Yeah, I don't know if it's trying to save money. They're trying to make a profit, maximize their profit, right? Yeah. So they hire a cheap interior artist.
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah, so if you're paying, let's say a big name, $300 a page, right? Let's add this up real quick. Let's do that. Let me grab my calculator. We'll do some math. I know I don't do a lot of math on this book or my normal stuff. So we got, Greg Capullo, because he's a big name. I'm pretty sure it's $300 a page, right?
Does he do pencil, inking, coloring, and all that?
I think it's just pencils. You know.
Oh, so that's only a fraction of what you're paying
Yeah.
per page.
Yeah. So I mean, that's $6,600 for him for one book, right?
Yeah.
You know, this is just a guesstimate. I'm not saying, but
You would have to sell tens of thousands of copies.
Yes. So you need to know when that you're going to sell a lot of those copies to put that artist on there.
Yeah.
And if you're going to take a risk, and Marvel's taking a risk with a lot of these books, they're hiring crappy artists. I know they're paying them $75 a page, times $22 a page, so they're only out $1,650, right? You know, for the art. You know, that's not including the inker if they're going to have an inker, but most of them make them pencil and ink.
Yeah.
You know, the letterer, the colorist, and stuff like that. So a lot of these guys, to maximize their time, you know, they do a lot of digital artwork. They will use digital models. They will pull them in and use them as assets in the backgrounds, you know. And we all know this. You can look at it. Like, you know, the drawings are way too stiff. You know, I mean, it looks lifeless, you know. There's no movement in anything, you know. And it's you can feel the difference. And then what they do is they will spend big money on a cover. So, say you spent $1,650 on interiors, but to sell the book, you know, because comic book shops, they know they don't want you to open the book. They want you to buy it off the cover because it's the cover that sells you every time. And I was just talking with Pixel before the show began. Savage Avengers got saved by David Finch's cover, the new one. So you're paying that guy $750 for the cover, plus $1,650 for interior artwork. That's $2,400. You know, I mean, if you take that from $6,600, right? You know, you're saving $4,200 right there. You know, give or take on the art. You know.
Yeah. Although, as a consumer, again, like I don't know about all local shops, but I always look on the inside of a book before I buy it. Yeah. And if I notice that the interior art is trash, which is 99% of the time, compared to the cover art, like again, we talked about Sandman, which I've always wanted to like. I love the cover art, but then I would look at the interiors. I'd be like, it looks like a 5-year-old drew this with crayons sometimes.
Yeah, even the new one. Like,
yeah. It would really get on my nerves. Like, why would you even like? And I'm not a collector, so I would just not buy the book unless I really wanted to study the cover. And I told myself, like, this cover is important. I need to be able to bring it home and stare at it for a while to steal its techniques or something.
Yeah. You can't. I mean, there's nothing. If you're just buying it for the cover, it's a waste. You're not even reading the interior of the book.
No,
so why would you pay a good writer to write a story and have shitty art, and when you know the people are buying it just for the cover?
I don't know these companies.
It all adds up together, you know. And I know they're trying to make a profit, but you know, then they spend all their money printing all the books and they don't sell, you know, or the stores get stuck with tons of them, you know.
I mean, what they're really doing, it's a classic cash grab that the publishers are basically taking money from comic shops who are trying to pass the buck to the customer. So it's this predatory relationship where almost abusive, where the publishers are just saying like, okay, keep gambling on this publisher. You have no other choice but to go through us. You have no other books to sell besides our crappy books.
You have no other choice who to get it from either. And they figured this out when they had monopoly on distribution with Diamond.
Yeah, and they still do, right?
Yeah, they have gamed the system with Diamond. You know, gamed it with how much they're going to pay. You know, Diamond, how much they're going to do variants for and things like that. So you know, it's a whole big game, and you have to pre-order 2 months in advance before you even get to see how sales did on the first issue.
Yeah.
You know, it's a bullshit, you know, thing. And then they claim, oh, sales are great, you know, for those books, and then the stores are going out of business. You know, that tells me sales aren't great. You know, if you want to look at actual sales of books, look at Doug TenNapel, look at EBS, look at Brian over at Coffin Comics. Those are actual sales of books. Those are going to be happy customers. They're paying a little more and they know it, but they're going to get a higher quality product. And I have no problem with that. Will it last long term? I don't know. I don't know if that is a feasible alternative for a long term turnaround of the industry. For a short term though, to get a high quality product, I think you're going to have to pay that way, because comics are becoming more of a niche market. Books are going digital. Everything's going to go digital. So having a physical copy is going to be more of a luxury thing, I think. And
I heard there was this really great Twitter thread about how owning a book is actually more of a social status symbol than. Well, for me, it's always like I don't actually talk to people in real life, let's say, as a joke. But like I own books because I want the books. But apparently a lot of people own these like bestsellers on the New York Times bestseller list, so that when they invite friends over, they see it on the coffee table. Or, yes, I did read that latest book, and they discuss it at the coffee table, or not the coffee table, the water cooler, Oh, yes, I did read Twilight. Let's talk about Twilight, because it's the thing that's happening right now. I didn't actually want to read Twilight, but I want to be a part of the conversations. It's the same with the gaming industry. I don't want to play half the games that come out because I couldn't care less. But because I have friends who are playing X game, like I want to maintain my relationships with them. I want to have something to talk about with them. So I play the crappy games that they play. And it's just because I want to keep the relationship nice and fresh. So as creators, part of our problem is like we have these really expensive books that we're selling for quite a lot of money, but unfortunately that's just how much printing costs these days. And
it can be, yeah. Some people, I think, kind of game the system a little bit and, pad a little extra money in for them as well, themselves.
Well, you got like teams.
I understand,
Well, you and I, right? We're writing and drawing our own stuff.
My friend Tyler wrote it, but yeah, I get the outline. Yeah.
Well, I would imagine then that the more people you have on your team, let's say writer artist or writer penciler colorist.
Yep.
That's a lot of money that gets split up, and you have to decide how that gets split up. And your printer takes a massive cut, a lot.
Shipping takes a massive cut.
Shipping is so expensive.
Yep.
And then if you want to go through a store, they take a massive cut. You'll be lucky if you earn 10% on your own book by the end of it.
Totally. Yep.
It's, I don't know, like we are printing in such small quantities. Like I always want to keep telling my people on Twitter, whoever asks, like I keep apologizing. I'm so sorry my book cost this much. I want to look into options for cheaper printing. Like I want to talk to Peter Samedi. I'm actually talking to him next week. I like what he's doing, but I also need to be able to afford. Like the big thing for me is like I want to draw these books more than anything. Yeah, totally. But I have to be able to find the time to draw them. I have to pay myself as a freelancer, like whatever X amount is, for whoever. Ask any freelancer what they can survive on every month, right? I need to make that much, whatever that number is, just to survive. We're talking like basically ramen,
I get it, dude. I get it. Yeah. Like I'm trying to draw Handyman right now, and I have to take, some freelance jobs, right, to work on the book, but so I can pay like my rent and my cell phone bill, and like I don't have many bills, right, but I'm only taking some jobs just enough so I can pay my bills, so I can work on the book. And then I got some life issues going on with my mom. But I don't get a lot of money coming in, And the money that I receive for the book, I got to just let that sit there until the book's ready to go for print. So I can't touch that, Yeah. So it's hard. It is way harder to make an independent book than it is a pro book. So which is why they charge so much money, which is why they print so many copies, which is why they, hire cheap artists, outside the country and stuff. Which I'm not saying their art is cheap, because some artists are actually pretty good. Just they go for
It's the
artists in
exchange
third
rate.
world country and stuff like that. So there's a lot of factors that go on. And when you're trying to make the best book you can, you run. Yeah, Muttman right there. Yo, the comic grind is for real. It ain't easy. It ain't easy at all. In fact, dude, some days you just hate it. It sucks. Like, it just sucks. The grind ain't easy. That's for sure, man. I'm preaching
And
to
a
the
lot of
choir
us,
right now. Yeah.
a lot of the people we know, like let's say non-ultra creators. I don't want to name names.
No, go ahead, name names.
No, it's okay. But like people who don't have massive names or massive followings, a lot of us are doing this on the side. We're taking a big roll of the dice here just to see, like, maybe I can make a book that people want to just pay enough for another one. And then we'll do it again. So even on this case with Mary Sue, like, I have to see this one got funded, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone's going to hopefully read the book and then love it and then want to read more of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'm going to do another campaign and then another and another. And hopefully people will like it enough. And hopefully I can do something about the prices or something like that. Like, if I can keep multiplying my readers, then I could probably lower my prices.
Yep.
There's this weird alchemy that has to happen where we have to just make enough so that I don't have to like do another job at the same time, so that I can put out the books fast enough so that everyone's happy.
Yep.
So it's this massive gamble we're all taking of, can I make a good enough book fast enough that everyone will want to see more of it without me going broke or having to work at FedEx or something, which is okay. I'll work at FedEx, but that means I can only do one Mary Sue per year,
or dying before the story's over,
Right. George R. Martin or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, or I'll just like start writing prose books. Who knows? I've always thought about doing that too. Not that it's that easy or anything, but it's like at least a prose book. I don't have to draw it. Mm-hmm. Like drawing a single, I don't know what your page rate is, but a page a day is like booking it. It's
Chicken in the chat says Sean Campbell of Ferryman, Jack Irons' team. They're also, Jack Irons, he's doing a book. He's like us, a small creator, and suffering the same issues we are. So
it's all about finding time. That's all.
Yeah, finding time, trying to grow a customer base. And if you start to delve into the world of drama on top of it, like, you're not going to have any time for yourself,
No, that's always something that's perplexed me. But all right, so with comics, I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, but
go ahead.
There's the marketing aspect of comics, and then there's the actual production. And those are two super different jobs.
Totally different.
And I don't know how often you're going to find someone who can do both jobs well. And even if they could do both jobs well, those are two full-time jobs, marketing a book and producing producing absolutely is a full-time job, 40, 50 hours a week, maybe more, who knows. But marketing on top of that, staying with your community, keeping them interested in your book 24/7. The only way to do that sometimes, I worry, is that you have to keep producing or talking about drama just to keep people interested and reminding them that your project exists. Because if they forget that your project exists, you're back to square one. You have to remind everybody, oh yeah, hey, my book, read my book. Because they're not going to see it in store shelves.
It's true, yeah. Drama gets people's attention, but I think it's short-term gain attention, right?
Yeah. The community's sick of it. Everyone knows this.
Yeah, it's not long-term gain attention. No. It's short-term gain attention. It's great initially to start that wave of interest, I think, in your project, in your what you're trying to do. And if you can build it fast enough, like your base fast enough, and I think we all know who did this fast enough, where he got big enough, and now it kind of feeds itself. not the drama part, but the subscriber part, where they can keep selling. They don't have to advertise as much. They don't do it because they invested so much time in drama to begin with that it built up their community. It built up their name and their recognition. So, yeah.
Well, the fight with marketing is just reminding your customers or potential customers that your project exists. A lot of them, there's a million distractions out there. Like, I don't even read comics that much, but like, I'm a huge gamer, for example. I spend all of my free time, let's say, and free money, if I have any, on, there's a game that came out 3 years ago and it's now $20. I'll buy that game. That's what I spend my money on. So if I see a comic that I really want to read, I usually can't afford it. But if I do, it has to be like a legendary comic. It has to be amazing and proven. And a lot of the current model, it's like, as a consumer even, we have to roll the dice. Is this book even going to be any good? Like, my instinct, even if I was a Mary Sue a potential customer, I would wait until the reviews came out before I decided to buy a copy.
And even then, by then, you may not be able to buy it.
Right.
Some of the reviews came out with the indie book, they're not printing anymore. And I worry about that too as I'm making Handyman. I want my book to be great, so people will talk about it and buy the next one. And I want it to stand out. And it pisses me off when people talk about me and then, like, he's late on his book. But honestly, I'm a one-man band, doing all the artwork, trying to get it all done and everything. And then, I've got life issues going up and stuff like that. I know nobody's criticizing me for it, but sometimes, things are said and I hear them and I'm like, oh, dude, you have no idea, what I'm going through to make this book right now. And should I have finished it before I launched it? Yeah, now that I've learned, totally, yeah. So
how many pages is it?
It's 48.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a bigger book, but also my art style kind of changed about halfway through, so I went back and redid some pages. So,
I see.
Some things have changed. I had to get a faster system and things like that, and then I take pay work on the side so I can pay my bills and things like that. So. Yeah, it got way more complicated real quick, and then when life kicked in too, it's like, oh, hey, kicking the balls right there. So,
earlier we were talking about how just to get enough readers to be able to do this kind of stuff full time, part of the marketing thing is to be engaging with the audience at all times.
It's hard to do. You can't.
Yeah, if you're on Twitter getting into conversations with people, you're not drawing. And it's hard to shift gears. I don't know, like, even just us talking right now and me drawing at the same time, I'm like, my brain CPU is at 100% right now.
Yeah. That's why I'm not drawing right now while we're talking.
Luckily, I'm Bob Rossing this, so I'm just like, my brain's turned off, kind
Happy
of.
Little cloud, yeah.
Yeah, my hand is just moving by itself, luckily. I've watched enough Bob Ross this morning that I'm like on autopilot, thank God. But there's no way
tomorrow's my draw day. Like, I knew I wasn't going to be drawing today because I'm going to be talking to people. I had to worry about getting set up for the show, making sure everybody has their contacts and all that stuff. And,
Well, I think as long as we are transparent with our audience, they'll understand.
Yeah.
Like, even if they're mad at, like, let's say someone gets mad at me because I'm late on something. They can tell me that they're upset, and I will happily respond like, dude, I know, I'm so sorry. If there's any way I can make it up to you, just let me know. I think that's the best customer service you can give.
Yep.
If someone's upset for like a legitimate reason and they don't just want to like piss you off just because, like, I can make it better. Just give me a chance. They'll understand as customers. Or if they want a refund, that's totally okay. Like, people have wanted refunds from me before, and I said, no questions asked. I will give you a refund. If you want to tell me why, if there's anything I can do next time to make you a happy customer, we're good to go. Just tell me. But
Chicken says pretty damn good painting for autopilot.
You know, I'm just that much of a Bob Ross fan that like I've been trying to watch him in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how many people love him as much as I do.
Oh,
Like
I like him.
he's my chicken soup for the soul guy, you know. Like if I'm not
Okay.
feeling well when I was a kid, I would watch him. But like all he does is like these kind of half. This sounds cruel, but like these kind of half baked. He doesn't really think about it. Brushstrokes, like he's done it a million times.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's just amazing to see. Like, okay, I'm moving the brush like this. I'm picking a color, and oh crap, a cloud just came out. And clouds are always so easy, and you can't go wrong with them. Once like even nature, I think like you can be as asymmetrical and imprecise as you want,
Mm-hmm.
but as long as you follow basic rules of lighting and stuff, you basically can't go wrong. So that's why I like drawing things like clouds or trees and mountains and stuff. I don't have to think when I'm doing them.
It's true.
People and machines, definitely machines. Those you have to like be focused.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
In fact, when I do backgrounds, it's really relaxing, you know, because once I prep the surface, I'm just on autopilot for the backgrounds. Like,
Yeah.
ooh, I like
And
the
once
cloud
the
like this. It sets the mood great, you know, with the lighting and
perspective.
Yeah.
Once you
Totally.
establish where the perspective is, you can kind of just populate the room with whatever you want.
Yeah, it's true.
Boxes.
Very true.
I just do a lot of grids and then I let myself go nuts.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah.
So
I start with
I just find my vanishing points. And
Yeah.
I just draw some lines in the area, you know, where it goes to, and then I just let everything go. I just like boom, 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 boom. And
yeah, I think part of the what I like about digital art and inking, just going straight to inking, is like I don't want to have to draw anything twice.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't like about the American pipeline is pencils, then inks, then color, or no, then flats, then color. And there's like 4 steps where I'm drawing the same thing 4 times. I go crazy.
See, I just do loose pencils.
Yeah.
Then I do tight ink, which is what I'm doing. And then I'm just doing a couple of gray tones, and that's it. And then a splash of red where there's blood and stuff like that in the book.
Yeah, that's the way to go.
And that's it. I don't have to worry much about it. It pops. It looks good. So, yeah. I don't have to worry about too much.
Production-wise, I think it's one of the most interesting and infinitely, like, if you ask any artist what's their production, how do they go from a blank page to a finished page? I always find that fascinating. Like, everyone has a different answer. That's one of my favorite things of interviewing people is learning how other artists do their stuff. I don't know. Like, I've never been formally trained. I mean, I've read a few books.
I never have either.
Yeah.
I mean, I just took some figure drawing classes, and that was it. You know, and even then, I failed those because I did what I wanted and not what the teacher wanted. So, the only class I passed was sculpture, and that was it. And he graded me off of my finished piece, and that was it. He didn't care how I got there. He just wanted me to get there. Yeah.
That's good then.
Yeah.
I think being able to think in 3D is one of the most powerful tools for any artist. And a lot of people neglect that in their training. Like I always tell younger artists, like when you're training, if anyone's listening, never try to practice from a 2D image. Always try to draw from 3D. Like
as
something
much as
that's
possible.
yeah. If it's in front of you, try to draw something that's in front of you. And you'll, in gaming terms, you'll gain the most experience points from physical objects that you're viewing stereoscopically with both of your eyes. Your brain is able to process way more information that way.
Yep. I find it great when I'm doing like bottles of water in the sunlight.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of shading and reflections going on.
Yeah.
You learn a ton.
Specular highlights, you know, things like that. Yeah. And I'll pick like 2 markers, a black colored pencil, and a little whiteout. And just kind of go at it. It's
Jeez.
not bad.
Are you a fan, or have you heard of the 10,000 hour rule?
I know about it, but I don't know if that's necessarily true. That's where I think talent sometimes outweighs the 10,000 hour rule.
Uh-huh.
You know, but I
Yeah.
also think if you don't know anything, you put 10,000 hours into it, you'll gain a lot of knowledge. You know, and
For sure.
yeah. So
Like, even if you're like, I've never been a huge fan of the idea that, like, I don't know how much genetics has to do with, like, for instance, if I draw well or if I paint well.
hmm
Is there a gene for that? I don't know. Is that more like a perception thing? Like, my ancestors were really good at spotting birds to hunt them or something? I don't know.
well, I think in essence some of it is genetic. I think it's how you perceive the world. You know, because I know there's like the typical like what do you call it IQ test, right?
Okay.
But then there's some doctors who came up with other versions of IQ tests where they're more creative. You know, some people are more creative aspect. Some people are very more logical, and so they have different IQs depending on what type of environment they're working in. You know, what
I
type
see.
of task they're given. You know, if they have lots of imagination, creativity, and things like that, you know, they're going to do better in certain aspects of thinking rather than others. You know, and very logical people, you know, are going to be doing more analytical type things. So, yeah, I think I think you know, depending how your brain's wired, you know, genetically, you know, it'll lead to those lead to that. So.
Yeah, I've always been on the fence, but one thing that always, like, I have a few artist friends who we hate hearing someone like come up to us and say, "Oh, you were just born with it."
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, dude, you
Oh, I
have
get that.
zero idea how long I've been practicing.
I get that all the time at conventions. Like, oh, I can't draw a stick figure. I'm like, yeah, you can. Anybody can. You're
It's
so
not like,
talented. I'm like, yeah, it's not really. You know, it's just lots
no,
of
man.
practice, lots of
I always
alone
compare it to
time.
basketball. Like shooting a basket.
Mhm.
I'm terrible at basketball, but
Yep.
I could teach myself to free throw if I just stand there for days at a time and just practice the same shot every day.
Yep. Hey Abel,
It's
how you doing? He says very nice cloud scenery.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
It's really just muscle memory. And, like, for instance, like, all right, so I'm painting clouds right now, and yesterday we had a great rainstorm, and
Oh, same here, dude. Thunderstorms galore. Love it. Yeah.
I was having a blast taking pictures of all the, I don't know what kind of clouds, cumulonimbus or whatever it was.
Yeah, the big storm clouds.
Huge. Yeah, it's summertime, right? You get the big summer clouds and stuff, and all these weird different colors. And all I was doing really was just staring at them. Taking photos is nice for reference, but what I'm really doing, or what a lot of artists can do, is you can practice drawing and painting. You don't even need to have a pencil in your hand. You're just staring at it and studying it. And like, I'm painting clouds probably, like, based on what I was seeing yesterday. It's like, I do remember seeing these colors. And so I'm slamming all these different colors together. And there's like a sort of like, it's like eating. Like, I eat a certain type of food, like lots of protein, that'll give me more strength for, you know, certain workouts, let's say. If you eat a lot of clouds, you'll be able to draw clouds well. If you eat a lot of nature, you'll be able to draw nature well.
Yep.
Something like that.
It's the same way as a lot of people, you know, don't draw humans, but they can draw cats and stuff all day long. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be that they have a cat, right? They're staring at their cat all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Well,
it's like one of those.
If you can draw a human, which is the hardest thing in the world, you can draw anything else.
That's true. I remember. Well, I think it was the hand and the face. They were saying, and feet for me were the hardest. But the funny thing is, now everyone tells me, like, "Oh, you draw the weirdest, most distinct feet." I'm like, okay. But that's probably because what happened to me was that I couldn't draw feet for the longest time. And then I just spent weeks telling myself, like, I'm just going to draw feet and nothing else. And then I ended up developing my own way, apparently, that is distinct. And that's fine.
Yeah, for me it was women, drawing the
Yeah.
women, the woman body, because
Uh-huh.
I'm a man, and my mom when she was younger, God bless her soul, was like, oh, you can't stare at naked women, blah blah blah, and stuff like that,
Yeah.
not realizing, I'm learning how to draw,
Yeah.
so for me to develop drawing the womanly form was a lot harder, and so I had to just sit down and just stare at women's faces for a long time. I think the faces for women were the hardest,
Mhm.
because I always
There's
want to put all the little wrinkles and lines, and I'm like,
yeah.
the more lines I put, the uglier she looks, or the older, or stuff like that. So I had to teach myself,
Mhm.
learn how to do it the right way. So
Cartooning, part of the discipline of cartooning, Scott McCloud talks about this in his book Making Comics or Understanding Comics. I can't remember which one. The symbols or the language of cartooning is about simplification and making things idealized. Comics or drawings, illustrations as a language is all about refinement and diluting and distilling things. So if I'm trying to make a young looking woman,
mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter if she's young as a model, let's say, the way you just described it. Like
Okay.
a 20-year-old woman could still have certain lines on her face depending on where the lighting is.
Correct. Yes.
But if you draw those lines as a cartoon, the lines on a cartoon face symbolize age.
Yep.
So even if I draw like two lines on the opposite sides of a mouth, that makes it look like a cartoon version of, in the language of cartooning, that means old person
Mm-hmm.
or person with scars.
Yep.
So what we're really doing in cartooning is learning not only just how to draw the figure, like realistically, because everybody has a different way of interpreting. Every cartoonist has a different way. We're building a library. When we study models, you and I, if we go to a figure drawing class, for instance, we might draw those models very differently from, like when I'm drawing, I don't look at models. I have to pull from my mental library. Like these clouds,
really?
I'm not looking
Okay.
at reference when I'm drawing them.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And for better or worse, I don't have time to look at reference when I'm drawing. So I have to rely on all of my practice and study for when I'm drawing all the things that I'm not used to drawing. In your case, you talked about like a figure drawing, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the best things to do, even if you're a practicing artist, is to go to a local college or something like that where they have models.
Yep.
Just pay $20 or something and you can sit and just draw to your heart's content for as long as you want. Do it in person if you can, because if you use reference, and I'm just speaking generally to anyone listening, don't just use online reference. You can find a million models. Nude models especially are useful, and cloth models, models who put cloth, like draping them over themselves. You'll learn so much about form and shadow and stuff like that. But like, as awkward as it is, like you talked about your mom and stuff, like being saying, "Oh, those are nude people." At first it seemed funny to me. A lot of when I went to art school at first, a lot of us chuckled when the nude models came out. But then within like 10 minutes, we all are like, "Oh shoot, this is business. We have to get serious now."
Yep.
And the chuckles went away, and we started drawing because now we're working.
Yep.
Even when they had models that came in with like unusual body types, let's say. Those were sometimes you would learn the most from them.
Yeah, the most challenging. Definitely.
Right. Because it's like, let's say a person who's like heavier or whatever.
Like me, fat guy. Yeah.
Like the way that their body interprets, like if for instance, I sit down on a tabletop, my thigh is not going to stay a perfect cylinder. It's going to squish.
Yep.
And you learn a lot from different body types. If you look online, like you can look at different body types and stuff like that. But if you have that model in front of you, they don't mind if you actually walk around, like walk in a circle around them, find the angle that you think you're going to learn the most from, and then you sit down and start studying. You can't do that from a screen.
Sure.
So I highly recommend
college
going.
wanted me to draw without looking at my page. You know, that is a good habit to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Contour drawing, right?
Yeah. Contour drawing or, mostly contours. It's not shadows or anything, unless it's like block shadows or whatever.
Yeah.
Trying just to get that, where you think the light is on the page or where on they figure it's going to be or whatever. But yeah,
it's a beautiful and endless discipline. No one will ever be such a master at it that they can't learn from drawing something like that.
Okay. I just recommend don't use Grindr to find your models. Don't use Tinder. You know,
There might be strings attached to those models.
Strings attached, yeah.
No, man. I think a lot of depending on where you live, local colleges probably will let you sign up for a class.
You can do audited classes for figure drawing. Yep.
Yeah, and they're not that expensive. Maybe I don't know, $20 a session, something like that.
In my area, the art museum hosts classes.
Oh, that's great.
On Saturdays that you can go to. I think everybody has to chip in $5 an hour. You know,
that's awesome.
They're usually there for like 2 hours or something like that. So, and that pays the model's fee plus the space. So
of course,
yeah. So
yeah, highly recommended.
Yeah. Well, hey guys, I think we're gonna wind it up today, George.
Okay.
We've been talking for a while. It's been good to have you on there. Let's pimp your book one more time before you go. The Mary Sue. Actually, hold on. What Muttman says, Drawing Lab Models also teaches how to get the most important information down first, because models usually can only hold poses for so long.
Yes,
that is very true. Yeah, you're, an hour tops, maybe 2.
Oh yeah. Well, we start off with warm
pose. Depending on the pose, yeah. So
we start out our classes with like 5-minute poses or 1-minute poses.
Gesture drawings. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You have to decide what's important, and you have no time.
Yeah. That's true.
It's very valuable.
Mm-hmm. All right, yeah. So let's give a quick rundown of the Mary Sue real quick. It looks like you're at $7,200. I think you went up a little.
Oh, we made some money. Sweet.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
All right. Wow. Yeah, man. It is a book that I wrote this story years ago as a joke. Like issues 1 and 2 is the story that I wrote as it was just a gag comic, but then I started developing it more and more, and I'm like, wow, this is like I can make a whole universe out of this. So it's sci-fi, action, comedy, and romance in that order. It's got a little bit of something for everybody. And one of the challenges that we were talking about earlier is I don't want to just make comics for guys, although as a guy, like I know this is something I would want to read, but I actually want to make a book that for real, like women might want to read, that like Marvel has been failing at doing. So I want to try to make a book that's for everybody in the most literal sense. So I would encourage anyone who, like I've been drawing a scene right now. These clouds are from, this is what her universe, like this is what her space, outer space looks like. It's just an ocean of weird colors and weird rules. Every galaxy is different. So what she does in every story arc is she travels to a new place and she has a main quest. And there are side quests that she has to do as well. And really, it's going to just depend on how much people want to read. There's a lot of story I can do, or I can just focus on the main quest if people want. And yeah, man, whoever's listening, just check out the Indiegogo, see if it's for you. If not, maybe tell a friend.
Yeah. Also, links to get hold of George, find the book, and everything are down in the description below. So, give it a check. My contact information is down below. Commissions are open, by the way. Hint, hint. So still want to get some work done. But I appreciate everybody's time coming out today. Listen to us talk, and appreciate Pixel coming out here talking about Insider Magazine coming out. And sorry about us ranting and raving over Tommy Lee today and stuff like that. But I thought it was interesting. I want to talk about interesting things here on the channel. So, anyways, guys, you guys have a great day. Thanks for joining us. God bless. Give it a share. Give it a like. Tell other people about the show. We'd appreciate it very much. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, no problem.